to be here, lending my thoughts with my sisters about the impact of work-life balance in the lives of millennials. I'm interested in health and wellness, obviously, as a physician. That's something that's very important, and I'll be sharing my thoughts more on this later on. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on board. Dr. Ungazi, please, can you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Esther, for that. My name is actually Dr. Ngozi Onyechi. I'm here, situated right here in Atlanta, and I'm actually a technology enthusiast and a technology consultant. I work for a Fortune 500 company here in Georgia. And my mission as a person is to help individuals to actually discover themselves and to be their best self. So I'm an author, I'm a writer, I'm a speaker, and I'm also a community builder, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ngozi Onyechi. I hope I get that now.
Yeah.
Okay, it's nice to have you all on board, and it's really going to be an amazing session because we know a lot is happening between this work and life. How is affecting productivity, not just on millennials, I think on everyone generally, because a whole lot is going, coupled with the traffic stress for people like us that is in Lagos. I know you people abroad don't experience this. So that's why it's going to be an exciting topic, and we're glad you all could come on board today. So in no particular order, we're just going to be diving right into the topic so that we don't waste much time. I know there are like a lot of unique challenges people find difficult to achieve their productivity. So I think I'll just give a little example before we go. So there was a day I went to my cousin's place. She stays at Aja. I don't know if a lot of you are familiar with Aja. So I had to resume work by 9, and I left the house that day by 7. Apparently, I didn't get to the office till 12 p.m. because there was serious traffic. And I got to the office, I was already exhausted. And I'm like, I told my boss, I said, if people coming to work and they're experiencing spending like half of the day on the road, because going back is still experience the same kind of traffic, how do people cope? It's very difficult because that day I couldn't do anything because if I could even settle in, time had already gone. I was not myself. So I think this is like a very important topic, not just because of the traffic, because of everything going on. Is the hassles and bustles in Lagos is quite too much, very, very challenging. So we want to hear from our experts, our speakers that have gone through this. Plus, because a lot of millennials are on ground, they want to hear what you have to say concerning this. So I'm in no particular order. I'm just going to be starting from anyone. And I think right now, let's start with Dr. Ngozi Onyechi because you introduced yourself last.
Oh, okay. So for me, I do have an experience of living in Lagos, and I also do have an experience of being in Lagos traffic. So I don't think there's anyone that has lived in Lagos that has not experienced Lagos. But I would, there's a question that I would like to ask. So for those of us that are working professionals, for those of us that are working millennials, and we have to leave our houses every day, we need to ask ourselves questions. Are we leaving to work or are we working to live? So as someone that has first-handedly, experienced Lagos life, in my days and I'll give practical example, I used to be a banker right in Lagos, and I had to leave my house as early as 5 most times. I get back home late, like 10 p.m. And I still have to do as a wife and mother, I still have to do my kids' homework, help them with their school, get them ready for school the next day. I still had to handle the home front. So it wasn't just the traffic as a woman, it was also about families, about values, about lives, and, trying to balance everything at the same time. And one of the things that I did that really helped me was, first of all, putting myself on a schedule, right? And also weeding off certain things. So there were times in my life where I had to stay off social media, right? Just to give myself more time than from time that was lost on the road. And I also had to, like I said, put myself on a schedule. So wake up at a particular time every day to know when to, beat the third mainland traffic and get to the office, because it's not just the Aja area traffic. If you're coming from the mainland, you also know that third mainland, it's a gridlock every morning. I'm not lying, but I could practically drive third mainland with my eyes closed. Like
Wow.
I knew, yes, I knew all the lanes that would move and at what point of the bridge. Like I could give you that practical example, that practical knowledge of third mainland. So I knew when to, put myself on a schedule, knew when to leave the house. Was it really safe? It wasn't. But then I had to choose my options. So what I would say is, like I said, are we leaving to work or we are working to live? You have to be intentional about your life. You have to be intentional about your job, your family, and find a way to balance everything out so that one does not suffer for the other.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Ngozi. Madam Isn't, do you have anything to say concerning this thing?
On the subject of Lagos traffic, right?
Yeah.
So I'll just piggyback off of what Dr. Ngozi said. I think there's really no way to avoid Lagos traffic except you plan and putting yourself on a schedule. Especially if, for me, there was a period where, thankfully, I don't live far from work anymore, but there was a period where I lived far from work and I would have engagements in the evening. And because I was so far from my office, like anything I'm planning to do for that day, if I need to find where to shower and change for any other engagements, I'll have to do it once I leave the house because it's just not practical to go through that traffic, come back home, then come out again. So I think it's just a lot of planning and being intentional and just, sticking to a very strict schedule. So I remember maybe 2, 3 years ago, I lived close to I was like a Lekki Phase 2 area. Then my children's school was in VI. Then my office was in Ikoyi, right? And I'll have to drop the children, make sure they're at school for 7 a.m. before going to the office for 8:30 a.m. And I also am very big on fitness. And just for me, that's self-care and that's my me time. So there was a period I was waking up 4 a.m., 3:30 a.m. to be able to get my 1 hour of my me time, fitness schedule, make sure the kids are ready for school to get them there at 7, because the school is also very strict on time. And if you leave even 10 minutes late, you're going to catch the traffic coming from the VGC, Aja, VGC, Ikate area towards VI. So it's a lot of planning, a lot of sacrifice, going to bed early, prioritizing what is important, and just basically planning your day. I mean, Lagos, they say Lagos is organized chaos because it's very chaotic, but somehow for the people that live here, we find some way to cope with it and plan around it. And I think that's very, very important. Just, making sure you're able to stick to a strict schedule and knowing the times to, move and avoid traffic as well. It's really a lot of planning. And I think besides just, the commute to work, across even just work-life balance in general, it's about planning and being intentional and, making sure you're not burning out in the process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Izini. So, Dr. Lamika, I don't know if you have experience with Lagos and the traffic and the buses of Lagos since you're not here in Nigeria.
Just hearing everyone else speak about it just made me smile. I grew up in Lagos. I went to school, thankfully, in Ibadan, and my escape to Ibadan then I was like, wow, there's a place that is so different from Lagos. But keeping in line with what everyone was saying, the planning is important. One of the things I try and do now, and I think might be is applicable everywhere in the world, is, dividing my life into segments. So I have these 9 core areas of life, and I try and allocate, at the beginning of the year, I set goals. Planning is important, and I'll tell you what those areas are: spiritual, family, ministry, health, career/business, finances, intellectual development, social capital, fun, and travel. And at the beginning of the year, I set out, I say, what things do I want to achieve this year? I break them down into quarters. So the first 3 months, I look back, have I actually achieved this? So living in a place like Lagos, for example, I think it's one where you really need to keep tabs on what you're achieving. If not, you find out that you're just, getting stuck in the hustle and bustle of traffic. The time spent in traffic, if you are not driving, can be very fruitful and productive. So for intellectual development, how many books do I want to read in the first quarter? If I'm stuck in traffic, that's where I'm bringing out a book and saying I'm going to read. My sister says she's very big on health and fitness. That's something that if you do not prioritize, you are never going to be able to get it done. Some people wake up much earlier to exercise. My sister lives in Lagos currently, and what she does at night when she lives in an estate is to go walking around that estate, and she sets a time. But I find out that if you don't allocate times for these things, they never get done. You find out that 2025 is, we're in December. We started 2025, it seems like yesterday. But if you haven't set goals or set targets, you will never achieve anything. And it's very important. That's why I like these 9 core areas of life. I actually got it from a doctor in Atlanta who's, big on saying, have you hit your targets? Have you set out goals? Do you know what you've achieved in the first 3 months of the year? So for people living in Lagos, I think it's something to adopt, because honestly, you give your life to work. For work-life balance, there are some, if you go online, you see all sorts of rules. The 8-8-8, 8 hours for work, 8 hours for sleep, and 8 hours for recreation. For recreation, you can break it down to make sure you're actually achieving, things you want to. You can learn a new language. There are all sorts of apps these days. But if you don't set out that time or actually plan, you will not achieve it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madam Kesiana, are you here? Because we can't see you. Okay. Just in 1 minute, tell us about the Lagos hustles and buzzers.
Like everyone has said, really, it's basically about planning and ensuring that you're able to commute around if you can. For me, it's almost like living around where you work if you can afford it, right? Is doing things like your kids don't have to be in the school 10 miles away from where you live, because it will be stressful for the kids, it will be stressful for you, it will be stressful for everyone. So if you can manage everything around you, for me, I think that's a very good key lesson. Like, find good schools around where you work, find good schools around where you live, move to an area that is not so far from work if you have to work, if you have a 9 to 5. Of course, there are situations where your husband is on the mainland working and you have to work on the island. You have to find the balance. Maybe live in Bagada, that is like in the middle. Just have to find a way around it. But ideally, it'll be great to always plan your life around, where you work or what is most important to you. If it's work, if it's schooling, whatever. But try as much as possible to be able to plan. Like she said, like Ezine said, planning, prioritizing what's important, trying to rest, doing the rules that, will just aid flexibility in your life and every other thing around you.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Tiziana. So I know we all have our presentations, and each speaker is going to speak for 10 minutes on this topic. Please, let's stick to the time, 10 minutes. Once it's 10 minutes, I'll be calling your name. You have exceeded your time, so please let's try and not to pass, go over the time limit. This time I'm going to start with Madam Lamikara. You're going first, so let's hear what you have about this topic, the challenges and everything you have on ground for us, so we can learn from you.
Okay. So good morning again, everyone. I have actually broken up my talk into 5 parts. I'll be starting with an introduction. I'm going to be talking about the impact of stress and how work-life balance affects productivity. I'll be coming from the medical angle, and then I'll also be giving you a few tools to use to tackle burnout and a summary. Okay, so slides. Okay. So work-life balance, when everybody's talking about work-life balance, what exactly does this mean? And I would say that it's different for everyone. What you do at work counts, but what you do outside work also counts. And the question is this attainable? Like I had just mentioned, you have to sit down and prioritize what is important to you. You have to say, hey, what is work going to get out of me? What am I going to give to work? What do I want out of life? And many instances, if you don't sit down and actually say, this is what I want, you find out that you're just being used by your job if you're working for someone. To be fair, everyone wants a productive employee, and they don't care what your life is outside work. I'm a physician, and one of the things I had to tell myself was that work does not define me, or work is not going to define me. Many times people ask you, what do you do? Who are you? And you find yourself defining yourself around what work you do rather than who you actually are. And it took a major illness for me to say, hey, I'm going to have to step back. I'm going to have to, look at my priorities. Do I want, after 50 years, 60 years, all I have to show for my life is just what my work is? What do I want outside life? For people with families, your family comes first, and that's very important. If you do not put your family first, your work is going to get everything out of you. The question is work-life balance attainable? And that will mean different things to different people. You can say that, maybe when you're starting out, and I'll give you an example. When I first started my career, I chose to work as a physician in Nigeria. When you finish school, you have to do house job. And I chose to do my house job in a small village, maybe not a small village, a small town, smaller town than my colleagues were going to. I went to Ogumosho, first of all, because my dad went there, but next of all, because I wanted something different. And I'll be honest, I'll give you an example. So work-life balance for me then meant that I spent all my time in the hospital. I lived in the hospital, and it was different from my colleagues who were in the big cities in Lagos. All my interactions had to do with work. So for that time in my life, I actually took a pay cut. I was earning maybe about 45,000 naira when my colleagues in the bigger hospitals were earning 150,000. But at the end of the day, I got to save that money because the hospital gave us accommodation. I lived and I worked there. I didn't spend money on transportation. So for me at that time, work took out more. And the older I became, your balance shifts. I realized that, hey, I didn't want to spend all my time at work. So you have to decide for yourself what you use to achieve that balance. Very quickly, I'll go on to the impacts of, an imbalance in your work life, in work life. For people who live in Lagos, for people who live or who work in really high stressful situations, if your work and your life are not balanced, it leads to many medical ailments. And like I said, I'll be coming from the medical side. You hear about people dying at their work desks, people finding them 3 days later. Many people do not take time out to take care of themselves. So stress or an imbalance in your work life can lead to so many ailments. And the most common ones these days, hypertension, which could lead to strokes, diabetes, heart disease, obesity. You find out that you're at work half the time. You don't plan your food. You don't plan your diet. You're spending your time sitting down, eating fast food or eating foods that are not good enough for you. One of the things that struck me when I first moved to the United States was how many people were so obese. I would go to supermarkets and see people in wheelchairs. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, so many people have spinal cord injuries. It turns out that they are just too big to move around. So they are all in scooters. And coming back to Nigeria for visits, I was always initially very pleasantly surprised that, people in Nigeria are not obese at all. But if you come back these days, you find out that, so many more people are adopting Western lifestyles, and that's because planning for their life outside work doesn't exist. So heart disease, obesity, there are people who have migraines all the time, especially people who sit in traffic, chronic pain, you have, pain in your shoulders, pain in your neck, you're sitting at your computer hunched over, for many more hours than you should. Memory and concentration issues, sleep issues, depression, anxiety. One of the big things, people don't even are not cognizant of fertility issues. There are so many young women, especially people from Africa with fibroids. You find out maybe at the beginning of the year you had a small fibroid. Before you know it, you have 16 fibroids and an ultrasound, and you're wondering, where does this come from? This all comes because you're not taking out time to take care of yourself. And work-life imbalance has an impact on it. You're just looking at hypertension, for example. There are so many people walking around with high blood pressure. When was the last time you checked your blood pressure? So one of the my next point will be in making time for work, you also have to make time to take care of yourself. What are the age-appropriate health screenings? We are talking about millennials. Those are, individuals in the productive age group. You are going to work all the time. You don't even think about taking care of yourself. But you have a brand new car and you make sure your car goes to the mechanic when it should go. I like to tell people you need to take care of yourself. Yearly medical exams are important. Once you hit your 30s, you can't, you find out that your knees are not the same knees you had when you were 20 years old. And millennials should be hitting 30 this year. Yearly medical exams. What's your blood pressure? What's your heart rate? Thankfully, these days we all have these fitness watches that give you information about how much you move, how much, sometimes you can record your oxygen saturation, you can record your heart rate, but don't leave it at that. Go to your physician. Everybody needs to see a primary care physician. If you have hypertension, have you ever done an electrocardiogram? That's to measure the electrical activity of your heart. Do you know what your lipid panel is? What's your cholesterol? You hit the age of 20, you should be doing your lipid panel. But yearly health exams, I say, are important. It's best to go to a physician and they say there's nothing wrong with you, then keep it off until you now have a major stroke and everyone is leading you to the hospital. These are things that can be detected and are preventable. Are you having chest pain? Don't put it down to indigestion. Please go get checked up. These days, everyone is supposed to have age-appropriate health screening. So are you 45? You should be having colonoscopy. The incidence of, colon cancer is on the rise. And it's not just, just lifestyle changes. Stress also contributes a lot to the development of cancer. For females, have you had your pap smears, the cervical cancer screen? Are you 21, sexually active? Go to see your gynecologist. Don't put these things off. Are you 40 years old? You should be having a mammogram. The age differs depending on who you see. But basically, every year, every 2 years, you need to get checked. Because if you do not, I like to say that if you don't take time to take care of yourself, one day there will be a hard button pressed and you have to stop. If you've had a stroke, would work be important then? For people who smoke, and I think that's all part of the stress, you have to have screening CAT scans. You've smoked a certain amount of cigarettes or you hit the age of 50, you need to get a screening CAT scan. And that's something your primary care physician can talk to you about. Do you know your family history? For men, is there prostate cancer in your family? Go get screened. For people who are sexually active, sexual transmitted infection screens, the HIV, it's not a thing of the past. The HIV still exists. Have you gotten screened? Have you screened?
I think we lost that. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear her clearly.
Okay, I'll just go on because my time is running out. Chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, these are things that are going around. And many times, we forget about our health because we think we are young, we think we are strong. And these are things like I tell people, if you want to live in your body in your 60s, in your 70s, in your 80s, you have to take care of your body now. This is not something you put off. So what things can you do to, sort of ensure your work-life balance is where it ought to be? Lean on your community. Community is big. Many times, in your bid to want to work hard and to, make a name for yourself, you forget that you are not, you have to do life with other people. Your community can be your family, it can be your church, it can be your mosque, it can be, you just need to live with other people to make it through life. Physical exercise and diet are important. I'm not going to go through all of that. Creativity, explore your interest outside work. Like I said, does your work define you? Who are you if you were told not to describe yourself by your position at work? Do you know who you are? You never know if you're a talented artist. Many times we get into secondary school and they put us into the science arm, the art arm, and then the artists are supposed to be the creatives. You can be a scientist and also be a creative. Try new things, learn a new language. One of the things I tried to do this year and last year I started was to learn Arabic. It's different, it's unique. The script is, different. You read from the left to the right. Explore something else, pick up something, change your environment. For people who spend all their time at work, you'll be 60 or 70 and retired and realize that I don't know how to do anything else. And like I mentioned at the beginning, the 8 to 8 to 8, 8 hours for work, 8 hours for sleep, 8 hours for you to find out who you are. And what things do? I mentioned that, I'm learning a new language, discover hobbies. In elementary school, I learned how to crochet. There are so many things. There's a lady in Nigeria who teaches people how to crochet. You pay a minimum amount, maybe 2,000, 3,000. She'll give you a pattern. I write. I love to travel. I like to run. So I've run 2 marathons, many half marathons. Do something just like that. Separates you from your work. And try to, like I said at the beginning, prioritize and say, who am I outside of work? Who am I at work? Because you also have to define your work relationship. So in summary, and I'm just summarizing all the points I've made, identify what work-life balance means to you and stratify your life into categories. I mentioned the 9 core areas, allocate times or goals to each category, and then assemble your toolbox. What is going to make me less stressed? What is going to make me ensure that I'm enjoying where I am at the moment? Prioritize your health. That is so important. Make sure you're going to see your primary care physician at least every year. If you're in your 20s, you can make it every 2 years, but go for your age-appropriate screenings. It's better to be screened and have something caught early than for it to help you set the pause button at work. And one of the things I'd also like to say is community is key. Find your people, find your tribe, find people who will support you through, life transitions. Thank you. You're muted, Esther.
Okay, thank you so much. It was really an enlightening session. I had learned a lot from you. I learned that we have to prioritize ourselves. We have to learn a new skill. And I like the 8 to 8, 8, 8, 8, 8 session, but I don't really think it works here because we're always on the road. So, all right, thank you so much. I have a lot of questions for you, but after the whole session, I'll come back to you. So, we're going to be going with Madam Kesiana. Can you give us 10 minutes, please? What you have for us today?
It's interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you. I enjoyed every moment with just listening to her. It was mind-blowing. Thank you. Well, like everyone would normally say, right? Stress, work-life balance. What really is work-life balance? Can we really achieve work-life balance? It sounds like a cliche when you say work-life balance, because really, it's either you're thriving, you're managing, or you're exhausted and running on fumes all the time. So what is it for us oftentimes? The thing is, something has to always give, something has to stop. At every point in time, you have to, I don't think there's anything that's, at every point, something is given, right? Like she rightly said, isn't it? Sometimes work is prioritized, sometimes your life is prioritized, sometimes family is prioritized. So, but what really matters to you at every point is really what matters. Like you have to think about it and then think and say, poor balance leads to stress. It leads to lowered productivity. It leads to mental fatigue. It leads to a lot, right? Loss of job satisfaction and all that. But stressing out is not usually the best way to achieve work-life balance. Some people will think that, when the more busy I am, the more I achieve, but rather stress is not a solution, it's actually a problem. I would always say, Madam Busy to burnout, right? I remember when I was very busy at some point, it was interesting to know that I didn't realize what burnout was. I was just working and working and working. And then I had a mental breakdown. And then I now realized that, working so hard without a balance can actually get you to an asylum if you don't stop and pause. And it took me going through that entire process, an entire season of my life, to realize that, stress, you don't get paid to get stressed, right? Nobody gives you an award when you're stressed. Every other thing would pause, every other thing would stop, regardless of what you think needs to be done or not done. And so you don't have to wait for that point when everything has to stop for you to be able to, get past that point. And it took me a season to now realize that, what are my stressors? What are the things that I realize and stop and say, okay, I think I'm getting stressed. I need to stop. I need to retract. I need to retreat. I need to do all that. I'll just talk about quick strategies that we can use to improve our work-life balance, like set clear boundaries, work boundaries, protect your personal time, and say no when you can, and when it is needed. Oftentimes, as ladies, we give. We are used to giving. We nurture. We give, and so we don't always realize that saying no is a thing, and it's not bad to say no. No is actually a word, and we can use it often. You can use the time blocking systems to be able to work smarter and not harder. I would always tell people to use your top three goals every day. What are the things you want to achieve for today? I won't go to number 2 until I finish number 1. You know, just prioritize. And then, of course, digital detoxing. Reduce your screen time and your notifications when you can, just to be able to create that balance, because you have to work. But your body's your powerhouse. Rest and sleep 7 to 9 hours, 8 hours, you know. Hydrate, get good nutrition, daily movements, and manage stress. Managing stress, like we would say, is not as easy as, but you have to be intentional. You have to take a decision and say, you know what, I'm going to stop and, you know, ensure that my body, being my powerhouse, serves me, right? Your mind is your biggest asset. What are the boundaries that you have set around your mind? Do you declutter your mind often? Do you journal? Do you meditate? Do you exercise? Do you protect your energy and ensure that you don't have like mental overload all the time? Quickly, balance is not just about sustainable success. It's about reduced productivity. As much as you think that, you know, productivity is stress, a lot of people would you know, associate productivity with a lot of work. Hard work is productivity. No, increased stress and exhaustion doesn't help you become productive. Lack of focus, it gives you lack of focus. Motivation is not there. You decline in your creativity and your innovations, right? So overworking to get ahead doesn't really lead to productivity. It leads to burnout, and we have to stop and decide that, you know, I need to stop. I know when to stop. Ignoring our personal well-being, like Doctor was also saying, you know, ensuring that you try not to sleep, try to sleep well, try to do your checks, you know, have community, people that you can do the things that matter to you, the things that you care about, the things that make you happy. Try. It doesn't have to be a spa day, quote and unquote. You can decide to say, what are the things that make me happy? Is it a cup of tea? Is it having lunch with my friends? Ensure you take care of yourself, and don't say yes to everything, because it leads to being overwhelmed. You know, don't rely on your multitasking. Try and delegate. Women, we don't like to delegate. As much as you can, delegate, and don't wait for the right time to take a break. You can just, you know, don't delay on rest, because it will lead to burnout. So really, it's not about being flexible or perfect. It's just about taking a decision and saying, what are the small changes that I will do today to ensure that, you know, I'm getting productive, and realizing that I'm not stressed, I'm enjoying my life and living the best for me, so that I can pour. Because if you don't have a full cup, you can't pour. You can only pour out when you're full. And how are you full? By prioritizing your self-care, ensure your life, ensuring that, you know, you're there for others, but you have to be there for yourself first. What are those things that make you happy? What are the things that would ensure that you live a long and fulfilled life, that when you die tomorrow, you die empty? Prioritizing work alone will not get you there. You have to live a balanced life and prioritize. So some days, take time out to rest. If you have to time block, if you have to delegate, if you have to ask your boss at work, I need time off work. You're not a superwoman all the time. There are times where you have down times, and it's okay to relax. So yeah, I'll stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madam Kesiana. It's really an enlightening session with you. And the same thing, everyone is saying, you have to check your health, you have to prioritize, and you also have to say no. Don't say yes always. I think really everyone finds it difficult, especially in the work environment, to find it very difficult to say no to your boss when they're asking you, even though you know you are stressed. But because fear of the unknown, you just say, okay, I'll do it. And it makes us work too much, and working too much, like you said, is not success. Thank you so much for that. So Dr. Ngozi Onyeche, can you please in 10 minutes give us your own session, your own thoughts, your own strategies on how we can balance this work life? Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Esther. So for me, I've really learned a lot from the last two speakers, and thanks for your insights and your knowledge. So I'll come from another angle, because they've actually said so many things, and I don't want to repeat what they've said. So one of the things that I'll be saying today is we all understand that life can quickly happen, right? And there are a lot of things that are beyond our control as humans. So going back to the 9 areas of life that Tony talked about, I would increase that to 12 areas of life, right? And I would ask, questions on every area of our lives. And I would also liken the areas of our lives to like our financial portfolio. So we have your health and wellness, you have your family, you have your finance, you have your social life, you have your spirituality, right? So looking at your financial portfolio, how much are you investing in each of these areas of life, right? And how much are you withdrawing from each of these areas of life? So if there's no balance in every area of your life, then you begin to get depleted in another area. So for example, I'll give an example. So I liken my personal well-being and growth to, I would say, an emergency fund, right? Where for every time I take like a personal break, that is just me using some of the emergency fund that I have kept in my portfolio. That's me using part of the savings that I have grown in my portfolio. Then I would also liken an example of saying, for every time you attempt to walk outside work, it's like you depleting part of time that you're supposed to spend for family. It's like you depleting time, like making withdrawals against your financial portfolio. So we have to be intentional about what we do. We have to be intentional about our work. It's okay, like she said, it's okay to say no. Not just saying no, it's okay to also get on a job. Like I always tell young people, I say, once you get on a job, one of the ways to succeed in life is to quickly align with your manager or your boss and ask, what are the expectations of me? That way, when you know your expectations and the deliverables, it's very easy to align and plan your life in terms of what is expected. The Bible says we should write the vision and make it plain. So if your department has a vision, if your manager has a vision, it's just very easy to follow the template. You don't really need to do any other thing. So what will make me succeed on this role? What are you expecting of me? What will help me grow? So by the time you have that template, you already know what you're investing in your financial portfolio. You already know what you're taking out as withdrawal. So for example, am I going to spend time upskilling myself? Am I going to spend time on this role just burning out? From someone's responses, you already know. If I have a manager that he would want me to work like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., I already know that I can't balance out all the areas of my life, right? And before I know it, my savings or my financial portfolio would have been depleted and I'll really be lost as a person. So we really need to understand some certain things. Another analogy that I would give is using the same areas of life. Imagine, let's say you were going from Lagos to Benin and the wheels of your car is supposed to be like, let me use like some of the critical areas of life, like family, health and well-being, your job and your finances. Let me use the wheels of your car as those analogies. You're going from Lagos to Benin. And we all know that the tires of the car are round and they must be inflated at a particular level. So imagine you have one tire down. How do you think your journey will be from Lagos to Benin? Do you think you'll get there in good time?
No.
Obviously, the journey will be stressful. Not only stressful, it will be daunting. You may even be accosted by robbers. It will expose you to a lot of things on the road. So to get ourselves, just like how we plan when we travel, to get ourselves up to that optimal level, we have to make sure that every area of our lives is working optimally the way we're supposed to get it to work. But is it easy? The answer is no. But we have to be intentional every day. So even in setting out goals every day, we also have to set out goals in our goals because things do change. I said life happens, things change. So you have to quickly adapt to change. You have to quickly adapt to making your goals flexible. If this doesn't happen, what next? If this doesn't happen, what will I do? Will I get burnt out? Will I get stressed? We see a lot of layoffs nowadays happening that people did not plan for, right? So how do they balance? You can't be telling someone that probably just lost their job yesterday about work-life balance. You're speaking into one ear and it's coming out from the other, right? So how do they go about all these things? How do they plan to make sure that every area of their life is balanced? It goes beyond just setting goals, like I said. It's also being intentional and also making your goals flexible. If this doesn't happen, what will I happen? And what will I do? And even if my what I'm expected to do doesn't happen, what will be my next step? So we have to keep asking, what will be my plan B? What will be my plan C? What will be my plan D in case this does not happen? Then I think just to close, I would say that the choice is ours, right? If we remember the mathematical expression that says A plus Y is equals to A plus BX. Y is our outcome. A is the things that happen in life that we cannot control. B is the things that we can control. And the little X you see at the side is how the emotions that we attach to the things that we control. So I'll give an example. I'm going to work in the morning. I'm about entering a bus in Yaba, and someone steps on me, right? I can't control people stepping on me when I'm rushing to enter a bus, but I can control how I handle the situation, right? And that may actually affect my whole day. And that little X is what will affect the outcome that I said is the outcome for this. So we have to apply that. It might look like a mathematical expression, but if we apply it every day to things that we do, we'll see that we'll really improve in every areas of our lives. And lastly, nothing means anything except the meaning you give to it. So what someone calls work-life balance may not be the same thing for you. So you have to know the meaning of what you give to everything in your life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ngozi Onyechi. I like the last part that you said. You said nothing. How did you say that? Nothing gives meaning except the
And
meaning you give to it.
yes, nothing means
Yes,
anything
so
except the meaning you give to it.
I like that. And I like the fact that you came from the financial portfolio. I wouldn't have thought about that if I was to imagine it. Thank you so much. I really learned a lot. And it's been amazing hearing from you speakers. And now we are coming to the last speaker for the day, Madam Ezine. So let's hear what you have. I know you have a lot for us. I've been seeing you jotting a lot of things down. So I know you're just going to blow our heads. So let's have you on board. 10 minutes.
Wow, a lot has been said. I don't know what I can possibly add to this. So I made a few notes that I would share in a bit. I didn't come prepared like our doctor here, that a medical doctor that spoke earlier. And in fact, I found myself thinking, when last did I do all of these checks? So I think, it's important sometimes to pause and really think about your wellness. So I started this year hosting a vision boarding event. And it's something we've done with 234 Finance. We've done it actively for the past 3 years. And this time around, I said, you know what? I'm not just going to be an organizer, I'm going to sit down and listen to what the facilitator was sharing. So towards the end of the first facilitator, he said, what is your word for the year? Right? And and this has been something I've been thinking about. And my word for the year is rest. And it was so funny because I was speaking to one of my staff, and I'm like, what do you think my word for the year is? She did not know that that was what I had written. And based on the kind of year we had in 2024, she was like, is rest. I'm like, wow. And it was so profound. And I'm just sharing this to say, for me, work-life balance is something that I'm going to be very intentional about. And the reason I say this is I would use myself as an example. An overachiever, someone that, likes to check boxes. I don't know who can relate to that. I have 10 tasks. I want to just, know that those tasks, there's something it does to me when I know that these tasks are getting done. And when you do that, you're burning yourself out in the process. So for me, this is a very critical topic. for how I'm even viewing life. Because there's some things that happen, in your life. There are some things that come to you, and you don't have to stress so much. Sometimes it's in rest that you get opportunities. Is in just, you know what, let me not think about work so much. Let me just cool off. And you're getting downloads of ideas, right? So there are a few notes that I wrote about how to, like, practical steps for achieving work-life balance. Number one for me is delegation. I know someone mentioned it, but it's something that I've become so skilled at. Like, I delegate without apology. Is there an errand that I need to run that I don't have to be the one to do it myself? Is there childcare that needs to happen and I don't have to do it myself? I've found ways to delegate without killing myself in the process. And sometimes it comes at a heavy expense, right? I find myself putting my children in all kinds of extra career. I have three boys and they're very close in age, between the ages of 7 and 9. So you can imagine the kind of household that I have. They're very active. And, the moment I'm leaving my 9 to 5, I start my 5 to 9, right? Because they need attention. They haven't spent time with me the whole day and they need attention. So what I do, particularly during the school term, I ensure that they have lessons every day, different lessons, whether it's music or is a lesson teacher that is helping them with homework. I'm very apologetic about it. People can say, oh, you're not hands-on, you're lazy, but that is what I need for my sanity, because I need a system and I need a structure that can operate without needing my physical presence. And I'll engage with my kids' teachers, and they're like, wow, you're very hands-on. So as much as I can, to the much of my human ability, I try to, make sure I'm keeping up with their schedule. But honestly, there's only so much you can do. I'm very busy. I travel quite often, but these things need to be done. So also, putting a system and structure that works for you. And what that looks like is different for different people, right? So you can't use, my own system and structure to plan your own. So whatever, it's very relative and it's very different. So figuring that out in a way that works for you is very important. There's setting boundaries. I was so happy to hear, people sharing that this was something I had jotted down as well. Learning to say no. I think as women, because we're natural nurturers, we always want to help. Even in the workplace, we tend to take that with us, right? And stretching ourselves beyond what we're even supposed to be doing, right? So I think setting healthy boundaries is very important. And I mean, we're in a society where the expectations of, oh, this is how women should be, but you have to be very unapologetic about setting boundaries to protect your mental health and to not stretch yourself too thin. Because when you're stretching yourself too thin, then you're not even effective in any case. So what is the point? So I think that is important. Planning, planning, planning. I tell you, it's a game changer, right? Planning first, then prioritizing. I'm such a planner. Like, even as something as little as a hair appointment, I'll put the same energy I'll put towards going into a board meeting is the same energy I'll put into getting my nails done, getting my hair done, scheduling it in a calendar, and making sure that I follow through, prioritizing my self-care. These are the things that make me happy. I think it's very important to do what you enjoy, right? There's some people that they have I don't know how to call that term now, but they have the things that is like their is like their how do you say this thing now? Things that maybe they'll feel judged for, liking those things. Like, so for some people is shopping, for some people is going out and hanging out with friends. So if there are things that you enjoy doing, because it all forms part of your work-life balance, do them and do them often. Schedule them the way you'd schedule, other things. And I think balance is so important. I can't remember, I think Tommy talked about the nine key items or the different areas of your life that are important. I think that's what makes us balanced, right? There are things that you have to cater to. For me, I find joy in connecting with people. I find joy, it's not for everyone. Some people they're not very social and they'll rather just, chill and watch TV. That's not me. I'm not a TV person. If I see myself in front of the TV screen, I'm falling asleep. right? But I like to interact. So I find a way to, do those things that I enjoy, interact, go out with friends, spend time with my children, do my church thing as well, and just finding balance. Sometimes you can't, it's actually difficult to always find that balance because when you're focusing on one thing, something else is falling through the cracks. And it's actually okay. I used to beat myself if I'm traveling for work, then I'm having mommy guilt because I'm not able to be I'm not present in that moment. But what I do is when I'm back, I try to be as present, right? So you can't win on all fronts at the same time. So if you're focusing on some things, then some things would have to take the back seat. And if when you're able to pick up those things again, then you do that. Then you have to be flexible. Flexibility is also key. It can't be, and I find that people who are very set in their ways, they are often frustrated when, life happens or something throws them off and they are not able to do those things the way they've planned it. But if you're flexible, then when life throws you curveballs, you're able to, figure out a way around those curveballs. So I think it's very important to be flexible and, make room for flexibility in planning out your life, right? Because there are things that will come at you. You didn't plan for it, but somehow you have to deal with it. So if you're always making room for, okay, if this doesn't happen this way, then something else will happen. And I think that's also a way I've lived my life. I always have a plan A, B, C, and D, right? So if plan A doesn't work, I'm moving to plan B, plans, and I've pre-planned it. So I've already made room for any contingency that would happen and that might throw me off my schedule. Then use technology. We're millennials, right? Or at least the people that were targeted for this conversation are millennials. There are tech tools that can make your life, so seamless and so easy. Automate it. GPT has become like a best friend and a best friend to me because you can find almost any question. And I'm not saying just use ChatGPT. Of course, you use your some of your knowledge as well, but you're using it as an assistant. And I think automating your life is also very important. There are little tools here and there that you can use. If you're someone that is big on building a personal brand, it can be quite daunting. I'm in the process of reviving a personal brand, and it's daunting because I wear so many hats already. And when you're building a personal brand, you have to, do speaking engagements. You have to post frequently on social media. I mean, I see some of my peers and how they post, and I'm like, how are you guys able to do all these things? But then planning and using automation and some of all of these things I see, they all kind of, work hand in hand. So there are tools that can be used to just make your life easy and simplify your life. And the last but not the least thing I'll say is live guilt-free. I think it's very important, especially as wives, as moms. And once we're in the digital age where you find yourself comparing with other people, you find people that paint a very perfect picture of what their life is. And I say this, people are putting, their highlight reel on their social media. That's really not their life is, and you're comparing yourself, your real life, with someone's highlight reel. So I think you should live guilt-free and do what works for you. There are people, me, I don't enjoy cooking, right? But it's something that has to be done in my household. And sometimes when I see their, wives and moms that are so into the whole cooking thing, I'm like, hi, I'm a bad wife, I'm a bad mom. But if I don't like doing it, why should I engage in an activity that I don't like to do? Right? So everybody kind of has but there are things that I'm probably good at. I love project managing. I can take on multiple projects at the same time, which could be daunting for somebody else, right? So you just need to really know who you are, what you can take on, and do you. Don't compare. Like, we're all on different journeys, we're all at different stages in our life. You need to recognize what stage you are and what stage you're aspiring to be, and look at yourself as the competition, as the person that you want to be a better version of without comparing. So I think those are my few cents on this subject matter. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Madam Ezine. It's really amazing because I've learned a whole lot. And I like the part that you said delegate. So I was trying to imagine, and I said, okay, you actually said delegation can come at a cost, like it might be expensive. So for someone that has kids and wants to manage her career life, and she's not really there to delegate this thing, how is she going to cope?
So you have to know how to use people. It sounds terrible to say this, but it's a skill, right? You have to know how to use people. So who are those people? Who are the people around you, right? And what skill set do they have, right? It's not everyone that is fortunate or can afford to, hire lesson teachers, music teachers, language teachers, and all of that. But if you look within your network. And I'm telling you, I'm saying this to myself as well. There'll be something that you're looking for, and it's just around you, right? It could be somebody that is maybe a family, like a relative, or somebody at church, that wants to help. There are people that have skills and they can do these things, and you can barter, right? Because I teach this as well. I teach about networking and about business development. What skill set do you have and what skill set do you need and how can you make that exchange, right? And you'll find that people are your biggest resources. So if you're able to just look around you, look at the communities that you're part of, whether, directly or by extension, you'd find that there are people that can step in to some of these things that you need. In the short term, while you work towards, having a proper structure and having, people that can handle things that you're paying for. But obviously, I'm not going to advise anyone to stretch themselves beyond what they can afford. But look around for your family friend, your relative that can help you in one area or the other, but also be that person to them as well. Think of, okay, how can there be some sort of value exchange? And I think you'll go a long way. Sometimes, when you say these things, it sounds very far-fetched, but if you're able to just tap into your community, whatever that community is, whether it's your career community or your church community, we all find ourselves in some community or the other and look for what value can I get from people within this community and what value can I give as well. And if you're able to take that approach, I think it would get you very far.
Thank you so much, Madam Izanim. It was really nice hearing from you all speakers, and I'm sure my audience out there, you all have learned a lot, and you've written one or two things down that you're going to use in future. So right now, we're going to just dive into the session of questions and answers. And if you have any questions, please do well to write your questions in the comment box so we can take it up from there. And if you have the specific speaker that you want to answer the question, you can always write, I want Dr. Izine, I want Dr. Ngozi to answer this question, and they will answer the questions for you. So, okay, thank you so much once again. And now we're going to go into the session of questions and answers. Everyone has talked about priorities. That is one major thing that everybody talked about. You have to plan, you have to prioritize. So one question I have for everyone is, and please, we're just going to answer this question fast, so we can take a lot of questions at the end of time, so we don't linger this for long. So how do millennials value and prioritize? How do millennial values and priorities impact their approach to work-life balance? Since everyone has talked about priorities, so how do this impact our work-life balance? Any speaker can go.
I'll go. I would
Okay.
say what works for, like, everyone has different priorities, and in as much as we're grouping, we are saying this is for millennials, I believe you have a wide spectrum of who each person is. So, like I had mentioned at the beginning, when I first started work was a priority for me. And then, it shifted to I need my own time, I need, my own space. So, what you prioritize will determine your output at the end of the day. If you prioritize work, then work will yield the greatest good. If you prioritize your family would yield, would be fruitful on that end. So I believe it's whatever you prioritize, whatever you think is important at that time, whatever you give attention to is what, will yield results. So if you say this is the time for me to prioritize work, then work would yield results for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Tomi. Who is answering the question again? So I think I'll just be calling speaker's name randomly. Okay, Dr. Ngozi, you want to go, so please kindly go on.
Yeah, so to answer that question, I'm going to refer us to I've written 2 books. One is called Live Your Dream. The second book is called I'm Seeing Another Man, and both books are on Amazon. And I kind of covered something like this in the book. And what I talked about was, one, you cannot tell fish about water, right? So you have to know what is important to you as a person. You have to know your values, what makes you tick. You understand? What makes you come to work every day? What makes you show up? By the time you begin to narrow down and you understand yourself, that way you know some certain things that you cannot do and some certain jobs that you cannot do. So as a millennial, working and balancing, some of us started out with careers in those days that we never knew that, nobody told us that with this career, there's no work-life balance. There are some people in that kind of career today, like doctors. They don't really have time. They're emergency people. They can be called upon anytime. They don't have access. They don't have total control on how they plan themselves. But it's okay nowadays to make a major shift in your career, right? And still live the same life that you would have lived if you were a doctor. So it's okay to make that decision. It's okay to go back and like someone said earlier on, pause, understand who you really are. Most times we think we just act, right? But we don't apply ourselves in the middle, which is pausing. So I would say pause to like really think, who are you? What is your DNA? What kind of things can you do? What kind of things can't you do? And then plan towards achieving them, plan towards crushing those goals, and most of all, just plan living your dreams and being yourself.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ngozi. Any other speaker wants to say anything concerning this?
I'll just quickly add, do you really? If you look at the 9 core areas, like Dr. Tumi had said, at every point in time, something is suffering. Let's not get it twisted. You have to decide and take like an inventory of where you are currently and see, okay, on the work front, I may be balanced, right? What is suffering? And so let me up this end, right? At this point, let me reduce this part and then create more time for this. So you have to always, what's the word? I think you always have to do like an inventory, sit back and decide and look at your life. Sit and look at your life and see, what am I prioritizing at the moment? What's suffering? What do I need to do and do better and get better at, as opposed to just living and just going. We always have to retreat, pause, and think about it, and then try to create a balance so nothing suffers. Because the truth is that almost every time something is giving in, something has to suffer for another. Creating a balance would be trying to stop and then realizing that this part is suffering and it has suffered for too long. Can I create a balance? Can I, do more of this, do less of this, and then just create that balance?
Thank you so much, Cassiana. Madam Izine, do you have anything to say concerning this? Hello, Madam Izine. Oh, do you have anything to say concerning this?
Sorry, I had a guest in my office. What was the last?
Okay.
What do you want me to add? Just in general, or there's a specific?
No. So we had the question and we said, how do millennials prioritize their values and prioritize their goals to be able to achieve productivity?
Okay. How should they or how do they?
How do they?
So I think I'm a millennial. Hello.
Oh,
Holding this my millennial status. I'm not trying to be old at all. So I think most millennials, I can speak for millennials, these days, right? So compared to like our parents' generation, and our parents' generation was more of survival. Then when they get to a certain status, they can now start, thinking about impact work and, other things that they enjoy. But I think right now with millennials is beyond just, okay, doing what I need to do to survive. It's also about doing what is in line with my personal values and prioritizing impact and seeing how I can leave the world a better place. And I think, I'm speaking for myself and for millennials. I think that is what drives what you prioritize and what how you categorize the things that you need to do. So is it in line with the legacy that I want to leave and with the impact that I want to have as a person? I mean, oftentimes you don't get, some people are very fortunate to be able to do impact work, and that impact work feeds them, and they just get best of both. But oftentimes your impact work is not the work that feeds you, right? So there's always that struggle for prioritizing which one goes. But I think, people also try to do both. Some do both. I am doing both. It's very hard, and it means, you don't have a lot of free time, but you find fulfillment in doing the things that, you know, make the world a better place, or you feel it's your own quota of giving back to giving back to society. And I think that is even more important to millennials than just surviving or having a career that doesn't align with their values or the things that they feel would give back to society. And also family life, right? So I'll speak for myself. I have a family, and that's always in my top three, right? Family, career, and impact work, right? And each time, it's not always in a certain order. Sometimes the family needs more attention than my impact work, or my impact work needs more attention than my career. So it's always like, it's like you're juggling balls. So those are like my three major balls. Then I'll add like my spiritual life, my four balls that I'm always juggling, right? And just trying to understand what is important per time. And I think I had mentioned this, that, sometimes one is going to take priority over the other, but just, having that understanding and knowing what is pressing per time, but knowing that these are the core areas that you would always put priority on, but you're not always going to put priority on all of them at the same time. I don't know.
Thank
I
you.
hope that kind of clarifies things
Yes,
for you.
yes, sir. Thank you so much, Madam Izini. So I'm just going to ask this two in one question. I'm going to start with you, Madam Kesiana, because you said most times we might be working thinking we're working to success, whereas it's leading to a burnout. So what are the key signs that there's burnout? Do you understand my question? So what are the key signs that instead of you achieving success, you are burning out? Because most times you never can tell you're burning out and you feel like I'm working towards success. And you already said hard work doesn't lead to success. So, so we need to know what are the key signs.
I would have thought you would have thrown this question to the doctor. But yeah, I think there are signs. There are always signs. And I'm going to use myself as an example, being one that have suffered firsthand burnout, right? It's interesting what caused my burnout. In addition to overworkload and all that, sleep caused it. So lack of sleep, right? You know how you wake up and you're seeing 10 things, like you wake up tired. You've not rested. You can go to bed but not rest, right? So getting your REM, like going deep into sleep and resting, you wake up rejuvenated, your cells are rejuvenated, and you're fresh, right? But when you wake up and you're tired, you wake up constantly. Every day you go to bed, you wake up tired. You're not having enough sleep, right? You're going to bed, and then you have headaches. For me, there's a simple, once I feel it, I pause and I stop. Headaches. Like I just have almost like this persistent headache. And I know I'm not ill. I drank water, I'm eating healthy, I'm exercising. I just pause and I sleep. It's almost like sleep for me naturally resets everything. I preach sleep. I don't I don't underrate sleep, because one of the things that caused my burnout, like the doctor had said, was I wasn't having proper sleep. I wasn't sleeping. I was working through the night, working through the day. I was just going on an override, right? So sleep is usually underrated. We underrate sleep a lot. And if you sleep, you would understand that, those signs that you feel, you're feeling hazy, you're taking decisions that ordinarily, that those decisions they are not you. They are not normal decisions. They are not decisions that you would take when you have a clear head. You have headaches. You're having like blurry, your eyes are blurry. You're tired, you're worn out, you have aches on your your body. It's not like you did like some strenuous thing. You wake up tired, you're having aches and pains, right? You're very irritable, like everything irritates you. You're just shouting, every little thing, you know, there are little signs. And once you see those signs, I think you're almost like you should realize that you need to stop, pause, and then retract and then retreat. Take some time to rejuvenate and then rest and come back. Because when you do that, you come back with a clearer head, you come back more, you know, in tune with what it is the situation is. And because oftentimes when we're tired and we take decisions that we should not take, we make more mistakes. We think that we are more productive when we are on overwork load. No, you are less productive. You are more attuned to making more mistakes when you are actually burnt out. So it's just to know who you are. Everybody has different signs. I don't think it's a one blanket or one size fits all situation. You know your body. Know your body and know what works for you, and know when you have reached your threshing point. Know what your triggers are, right? What are those things that once you feel it or once you hear it, you feel like your heart palpitating, you feel like, oh, I'm almost there. You stop and then you say no. You have to always, I think also helping you when you know yourself and you meditate. I preach meditation a lot. When you meditate, you sit and you ponder, you think, and then you think deeply, and then you know yourself, you know who you are, you understand your body, you understand your mind, you understand what it is that you are, who you are. You know when there's something wrong, like I'm feeling stomach ache, like I'm feeling like my body is not, I just sense it that I'm not at rest and I'm not at peace. That those times are times that are, they're signs and you need to take them seriously. You just don't overlook them. But I know for sure headaches are one of them. Like headaches, I think headaches usually would almost translate to anybody. Maybe the doctor can help, because I'm just speaking from my own personal experience and knowing that those are my triggers. Once I feel a headache, once I'm irritable, once I can't stand, you know, I'm just, you know, my body aches, my back is aching, you know, you're just feeling unease. I know that I'm at the verge and I need to stop.
Thank you so much, Madam Kesiana. Dr. Tomi, can you tell us some of the signs? I know you see a lot of them, you know, so from first-hand experience, what are the signs of burnout that we need to know that, okay, this is time to stop?
I think Sienna did a really good job of, listing some headaches universal. Everyone will get a headache, but the other thing she also had touched on was a change in your sleep pattern. So if you find out, you used to sleep 8 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, and now you're going by on only 2 hours. Some, it might be hypersomnolence, so you're sleeping even much more, refusing to get out of bed, a lack of interest in what you usually do. The one example I like to give is of postpartum depression. You've just had a baby. You should be excited, you should be happy, and instead you're feeling angry, you're feeling, irritable. The baby is a source of discomfort. That's when you should actually step back. If you have postpartum hemorrhage, please go see your physician. But basically, things that you used to do, you get angry for no reason, and you find out that people at work know, and you start seeing people avoiding you, especially if you're in a supervisory capacity. So a lack of sleep, headaches, strange symptoms. For me, at one point in time, it was panic attacks. I used to tell myself, oh, I'm really, really a strong human being. And all of a sudden I would, wake up short of breath, not able to catch a breath. And for that, those were signs for me. So everyone is different. But if you start having any signs or symptoms that are unusual, that are different, that, make you feel like you're out of kilter. For some people, it's vision problems. Your eye, you get blurry vision. You feel like there's a weight on your shoulder. You feel like you can't go on. You're not motivated. Maybe work used to excite you. Now work irritates, the living daylight out of you. Like Kesiana said, step back, reassess the situation, and, try to find out who you are and what is causing these new symptoms.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Tomi. Dr. Ngozi Onyechaye, you should have one or two signs you want to add to this.
Okay. Both ladies have done fantastically well discussing about the burnout. What I'll just add is, for me, once I see myself working late into the night, I begin to realize that I'm starting to get myself burnt out. And sometimes I go back to revisiting the task that I was doing that led me into that. So some days we actually take on so much than what we're supposed to. So we do more than our capacity, and that really tells on our health. I'm not really one of those folks that usually get headache like that. But I know when I'm burnt out, my eyes start twitching, kind of like I don't know how to explain it. So I know that, okay, at this point, I need to rest. And it's really funny because just yesterday, kind of true story, I had a lot to do and I had a hard stop. And I was in a meeting and I had to be on that call, but I knew I was tired. So I took my laptop because I work from home, I work remotely. I went to my living room. I was listening, I was contributing, and I knew that I was going to sleep. I knew within me that moving to that couch, I was going to sleep. So I set an alarm for like 10 minutes. And honestly, by the time I woke up, I felt better and I didn't really miss much on that call. So we just have to know when to stop. And whether you like it or not, your body will tell you when to stop. It will alert you. So we have to know our bodies, know when to stop, know when to say no, not take on so much so that we don't get burnt out.
Okay, thank you so much. Madam Anthony, do you have anything to add, or they've said everything and everybody has what is unique to them one out? Do you have anything unique you want us to know about?
I think it's important to know your limits because sometimes we're superhuman and we can do it all, minutes and career and everything. It's just important to know your limits and listen to your body and what your body is telling you. So for me, I'm very big on routines and,
Sorry, please.
and I mean, we're women, we're supposed to shower, do our facial routine and all of that. But if I know I am tired, I will just sleep. Like, if it means sleeping with clothes on, jewelry on, whatever, I will just sleep if that is what my body is telling me at that time. And whenever I wake up, 12 midnight, the following morning, it really depends on what my body is saying at that time. So I think, as one day you'll be forced to listen to it. There are certain cues that the body is telling you. You don't just get to burnout, right? There's a process. And if you're not paying attention when your body is giving you those signals that you know,
I think your network is a bit bad.
you need to slow down or you're going to hit burnout. So
Madam Mason, I think your network is a bit bad. Or is it from my end? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, so I think it's from my network. Okay, so I want us to take like the last question so that everyone can go back to I'm sorry we've taken a lot of time today. So I'm just going to combine two questions together into one. And the questions are like this. What are the biggest challenges millennials face in achieving work-life balance? And what strategies can millennials use to set healthy boundaries at work? Did we get the question or I should come again? Should I come again?
You can, but I think I got it.
Okay. So I said, what are the biggest challenges millennials face in achieving work-life balance? What strategies can millennials use to set healthy boundaries at work? And how does this work-life balance impact mental health? So I think.
Sorry, what was the last one? How does work-life balance impact what?
Mental health. So Dr. Ngozi, you can come first in 1-2 minutes.
Okay, I would answer the question this way. So my response would be in line like this. First of all, the expectations from our society, expectations from family, expectations from friends, expectations from churches, expectations from communities and places that we belong to, right? So that is one of the impacts that I would say is really affecting millennials. So they're expected to be a certain way or to have achieved a certain level, in their life at a particular point in time. And if you go by this expectation of the society or of people, there is no way that you will not be important and you will not be affected. And what is important here is for people to be intentional about what it is about them. So instead of allowing your society to set expectations for you, you can actually start to retell your story by doing things that are about you, by saying things that are about you. What narrative do you want people to know about you? So you change the expectation of the society, change the expectation of family, change, because like for some of us, I don't know if anyone here, for example, let's say you are a firstborn or you are from a family whereby a lot of people look up to you. There's something like, for example, you can't say no to a job. You can't just quit your job, right? You have to think of the next person that is dependent on you. And an average Nigerian has at least 5 dependents. So how do you tell that kind of person to balance out their life, right? They're in a job where it's not really easy. They're being burnt out every day. They're being stressed every day. So how do they do it? It's not going to be easy on them, but they need to set the expectation and they need to tell their stories by themselves. Maybe they need to start to make their family members to understand that it's not easy as well for them. This is what my job entails and this is what I do. And sometimes as well, if it's family, it's okay to also have these discussions with your children. Let them understand that this is what mommy does. Let them understand that this is what daddy does. This is how we make, ends meet. So when they're asking for things, for example, like a PS5, and within you that is a burden for you at that time, and you may need to work 2 or 3 extra jobs or more shifts to be able to buy that for your children. Sometimes it's okay to say no to them. It's okay to tell people that, you know what, I need to step back for now. Even if it's your parents, right? You need to also let them understand as well. Like if you give them monthly upkeep and things are not the way it's supposed to be, it's okay to have that discussion to say, you know what, I want to start doing this every 3 months. I may not be able to keep up every month because it's really telling hard on my person. Then one of the ways to help us, nowadays, millennials, I would say read. The Bible says, study to show thyself approved. There's so many information out there to help us. There's so many jobs that you can do if it's terms of your career, right? You need a change. There's so many tools that can help you on your job to make your work easier. And most times it's not about you changing your entire career. It may just be you finding especially now in the age of technology and AI, it may just be you finding something that simplifies your work that you can actually use to start to rebrand yourself and tell your story, and then you become an icon in that industry or in that area. So that would be my points and what I have to say for this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ngozi. Dr. Swami, can you please?
Okay, I'll just add one thing. I had stressed about community, but find yourself a mentor. There are people who are doing what you're doing. Find someone to talk to. It could be your peers. It could be somebody who's doing exactly the same thing as you. It could be someone in a higher position, but find someone doing what you're doing whose work ethic you admire, and that could help get you out of the rut and can even give you a new direction. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dr. Swami. Madam Kessiana, can you please tell us 1 or 2
Okay, I'll just quickly speak on the challenges. We need to know where to draw the line, especially for people that work remotely. It's easy when you work remotely, you don't know when to stop. You're working into hours that you should be sleeping. You're working into family time. Because you don't, so let us be able to schedule our lives and know that when it's work time, if you were going to work, you would work 8 to 9 or 8 to 5 or something. Sorry, 8 to 5 or 8 to 4. Why are you working till 9 p.m.? Why are you working till 12? Why are you working? Know when to turn off the button, know when to always, because in this culture, we now have like an always on culture where, I mean, with the wake up, with the click of your phone, you're responding to work emails. You wake up in the morning, the first thing you're doing is picking up your phone and then responding to emails. No time for meditation, no time for prayer, no time for anything. You just wake up and you're almost on work. And then it then begins to blur the lines between, our work life, our work and life, especially with remote, and you now are pressured. I would like to just speak quickly and subtly on social media. Oftentimes, I think somebody had mentioned, people only show you what they want you to see.
Yeah.
And so don't be pressured by, oh, this person has everything working for her, she's juggling many hats. You don't know if she has 1,000,001 people helping her. You don't know if she's even lying, right? You're just under pressure for no reason. Know you and do you, and just rest on that, and don't even bother about what the world says, because really everybody's showing you what they want you to see. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Christiana. Know you and do you. That's so nice. Madam Ezine, did you get the question, or we have to come again with the question?
Please ask the question again. I got logged out. I don't know.
Yes, I know. So the question is, what are the biggest challenges millennials face in achieving work-life balance? What strategies can millennials use to set healthy boundaries at work? And how does this work-life balance impact mental health?
Sorry, can you say it one more time?
Okay, what are the biggest challenges millennials face in achieving work-life balance? What strategies can millennials use to set healthy boundaries at work? And how does work-life balance impact mental health?
Okay, I'll attempt to answer those questions. So in terms of challenges with work-life balance, right? I think I kind of touched on it before, that people have different competing priorities and things that are important to them. So the first thing is make sure you're in a career that you absolutely enjoy, and it's beyond just the work, but where you see yourself in the future. So I think if you do something you enjoy, and which is a very difficult thing to achieve, so you have to be very intentional about it. And I mean, the most ideal place to be is being in a career that aligns with your values and your impact, your impact work. So I think if you're able to achieve that is great. In a situation where you're not able to achieve that, you should be able to communicate it to your upline, to the person that controls your schedule. I mean, of course, you shouldn't take the piss. You should be reasonable about, taking time off work, and about planning your calendar, and about using your leave. I believe the average person has about 20 days in a year. So one of the strategies, like personally, what I would do to manage my work-life balance is to take short time off, um, consistently. So what do I mean? If I have 20 days, I spread the 20 days throughout the year, right? And I intentionally block out time that I'm taking time off, but I'm not just taking time off to be at home, but taking time off to do other things that I enjoy, and, make me feel fulfilled. And there are ways that you can do that. In Nigeria, we say that Nigerians have a lot of public holidays, right? I'm just giving like practical steps to doing that. So if you know, okay, there's a 2-day holiday, you can take an additional 2 days. You can take 2 days from your 20 days um, annual leave, and that gives you 18 more days, but you're able to take out 4 days, for instance. So you just have to be, to know how to play around those holidays. And if you're a millennial, I'm assuming that you don't have a family, you're able to also control your own time to a very large extent. So you just have to be a bit creative about carving out, time to do other things. Work from home. I mean, I say this as a joke to members of my team, some of my staff that work hybrid. Um, Someone asked me, "Oh, I want to can I work from home?" So we have a hybrid structure where we work Mondays, this for 2, 3, 4 finance, and Mondays and Fridays in office, and the rest of the days remote. Because I want to also speak from the side of an employer, right? Because I think it's important to balance things out. And employers don't want to just make your life miserable. There are deliverables and there are things to be done. So, employees also have to be reasonable when trying to achieve work-life balance. And this person goes, oh, I'm not feeling well, so can I work from home today? And I'm like, work from home does not mean taking time off. What you're asking for is to take time off work, right? So don't hide under the umbrella of work from home. And that's just, to me, it's just poor culture and poor work ethic. So if you need to take time off, ask for time off. Don't use the company's time to do something else that is not related to the job. So as much as, we want to push and advocate for, work-life balance, communicate when you need time off. Sometimes someone is taking, you're taking a course and you need to take exams, or you have a sick child, or something comes up, because that is life. Things are always going to come up. Don't, you know, lie about it, be honest about it, and make sure you have a good relationship with your upline. And if you're someone that delivers on your job, I think no matter how cruel a your boss is, we're humans, right? So if you do need to take time off to handle other things, to handle the family front, or to handle something else, if you communicate that, if you're working with a reasonable boss and you're also a responsible employee, because I don't think a boss that has an employee that delivers on his or her function and says, oh, Matt, today I need to take time off to sort out this personal thing. I really don't think that that boss would not grant you that request if you're someone that makes his or her life easier by delivering on on your job. So I think, it's good to just have this balance of perspective. So that's why I'm also giving the perspective of an employer who has people that need to deliver on tasks and, need time off. So are you a responsible employee? That's also, something to address, right? Because sometimes, employees paint the picture of this difficult, unreasonable boss, but you also need to look at it from the perspective of an employer, right? So I think, you know, having that balance is when you need to be delivering on your responsibilities, deliver on the things they're supposed to deliver on, so that if there are moments or there are seasons that you need to take time off or you can't be as on it as you should, and you need to make those requests, and you do it so that when you have those moments and you make those requests, they would be granted. And they may not always be granted. So sometimes you have to sacrifice, right? So if you need, to take maybe time off on something, then you need to also be able to sacrifice on it another time that may not be convenient for you to, get up to speed with the work that you've been lagging off to take care of this. So it's really about balance, flexibility, and being reasonable in general. That's what I'll say.
Thank you so much, Madam, isn't it? I would love to ask other questions, but our time is fast spent.
We're way out of time here. Yeah.
So just everyone should just give in 1 to 2 minutes your parting words to millennials, what you want them to know, how you this work-life balance, what you want them to do so that they can be more productive, not just in their job, but also in their personal life as well. Just your parting words.
Can I go first?
Okay, yes,
Because I really need to run.
Yes, you can.
Okay, so my advice to millennials is that you can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time. So that's my parting word. Yeah.
So, but I love that you can have it, but you can't have it all at the same time. That's so amazing. Thank you so much, Madam Izini. So, Dr. Tommy, can you give us a parting word to the millennials?
Mine is prioritize your health. You want your body to take care of you for a very long time. So please take care of your health.
I think not just millennials, I would say I'm guilty of that. I don't know, but I just need to say that I'm guilty of that because most times I just feel like, I'm okay. Why do I need to go and check myself? Why do I need to do this? I just feel like it's not normal. Like I'm doing very well. So I think a lot of us reason like that. So millennials, you've heard Dr. Tommy say, prioritize your health. It can never be mingled with. So just prioritize your health. Thank you so much, Dr. Tommy. But Dr. Sienna, do you have your last parting word to the
millennials? Okay, I'll quickly just say work-life balance is not a myth. It's a mindset shift. just by managing your priorities and setting boundaries, prioritizing your well-being, like Dr. Tony has rightly said, you can create a life where work and your personal life actually thrive. Yeah.
I didn't get that last part you said.
Okay, I said if you prioritize your well-being, you can create a life where both work and personal success thrive.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you so much, Madam Kasiana. I think I've taken to that, so that will be ringing every day in my head. So, Dr. Ngozi, please, your parting words to the millennials.
Okay, my parting words to millennials would be like, think about Nike and what Nike says. Just do it. Just do you.
Just do it. Do you. Thank you so much to all our esteemed speakers. It was really nice having you all on board. We wouldn't have learned this, we wouldn't have learned anything without you. Thank you so much for contributing. Despite your busy schedule, you still gave us time. We really appreciate you and we say thank you so much. See you next time in any other edition. I hope I will call on you guys. You people will be willing to answer us. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And
thank you for having
me.
Bye
from there. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nice
Have a nice day.
here.
Yeah, thank you. Oh yeah. Divine, you have slept off, right?